What measures shouldn't have proceeded?
Well, there's a number, and we've already talked about many of these. There's $45 billion of spending that'll have $18 billion of interest costs associated with it that we've opposed here in the Parliament in recent months. There's 10,000 additional Canberra public servants, and putting aside those in national security and frontline services, we think that's an unnecessary addition. There's additional new government agencies, which we think are not required. These are things that can be done through departments. So there's a lot of extra cost that Labor is adding. $8.6 billion of foreign aid, not in the Pacific, beyond that, and these are initiatives we think are not necessary at a time when Australians really are facing those very strong inflationary pressures. Add to that 1.5 million new immigrants added in this budget. I mean, that's an extraordinary number without, and that in itself, I mean, we support a reasonable level of immigration, but without a plan on infrastructure, the housing that's got to be delivered to support that, so all the services.
You're opposed to that scheduled increase? It's 400,000 this year, 315,000 next.
It's a massive number, and there's nothing that would convince anybody that there's a plan here to deal with that. I think you were just talking to Warren Hogan a moment ago, who was making similar points. These are very, very big numbers in the budget. They risk being inflationary because of the pressure it will put on housing and other things. And you've got to say, this is not well thought through.
Do you give the government some credit for getting to surplus, though? The first one in 15 years?
I think a drover's dog could have got to a surplus here. I mean, from November 2021, when Victoria and New South Wales opened up, our economies were opening up post-pandemic, through to the May budget, we know the budget was in surplus. That's what Labor inherited, and sadly, what they've gone and done is taken that, because they inherited it, and then taken the budget off a cliff. And in doing that, they're creating extra inflationary pressures for all Australians, and we're seeing the effect of that now.
Do you welcome the fact that the stage 3 tax cuts are now locked and loaded? They weren't even in the budget, so much so that the Treasurer said they're an old decision, they've been legislated, move on.
Well, there's no extra tax that Labor doesn't want. I mean, there's truckies taxes in this. They're paying an extra 5 cents a litre. There's farmers tax who are going to pay a tax every time they sell a sheep or a cow. I mean, there's a lot of extra taxing in here. Do they want to get rid of the stage 3 tax cuts? I'm sure they do. They've articulated that in the past. I certainly hope they stick with the stage 3 tax cuts. We think this is a very important reform. We're seeing extra taxes being paid by Australians. This is very clear in the budget. Through bracket creep, they're pushing up into higher tax brackets with their incomes without feeling better off. They've lost the low to middle income tax offset. There's a lot of extra taxes in here, so we don't want to see more.
Do you believe that the opposition needs to come up with its own plans this week? You've got the budget reply that the opposition leader does on Thursday. You've been very critical of the budget tonight, which is fair enough. It's your job. But is it now incumbent upon the opposition leader to come up with some alternative?
Well, I'd remind you that Labor's announced far more of its policies after election than before it. That being said, we do want to be very clear about our position on what we want to see in the coming years, and we have been. I mean, we have laid out a very clear plan to make sure that Australians are in a position to buy a house by using some of their super. We think that's appropriate. Labor deeply opposes it, but we think getting into a home is one of the most important decisions Australians can make. We've laid out a plan to support pensioners and veterans to work more without losing their pensions, encouraging them, giving them the incentives they need to get out into the workforce. And so, you know, these are good Liberal policies that reward hard-working Australians to get ahead. That's what we want to see more of, and I'm sure you'll see more of it from us in the coming days and weeks.
We can expect some more detail.
Well, I'm not going to announce the policies now. That'll be up to the leader on Thursday evening.
The housing focus sounds like
you'll see a strong focus on supporting hard-working Australians to get ahead. That's what we didn't see in this budget, and what you'll continue to see as a focus from us, Kieran.
Angus Taylor, thanks as always. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.